What is going on, guys? It is Trifecta J and welcome to episode 3 of my NBA 2K MyGM. Starting off, DeMar Carroll has torn his ACL. It has been confirmed by our trainer. So with that, we're going to go out and sign Shane Battier, a nice defender, a guy who can definitely shoot, and he's on a cheap contract, and he's also been to the playoffs before, so he can give us some nice experience. Something this team's been to the playoffs a lot of years, but they've never made it deep, and that's something he definitely provides to this team, being on the Heat for all of those years. So this week we're taking on the Utah Jazz at home, and the Jazz have signed Carmelo Anthony in the offseason, and they also picked Joel Embiid 4th overall. And so in this game we're starting Lou Williams over Kyle Korver for really defensive purposes and really to get some more athleticism on the floor, as we definitely need a strong defender guarding Carmelo. And then they have Alex Burke and Trey Burke on this team, who are both pretty good scorers. So we're about to tip off here. You can see Joel Embiid. This is a team to reckon with now. A nice young core with Carmelo Anthony, who's a little older, but he has some nice experience to offer to this young core. So tipping off now, Al Horford, Joel Embiid. Tip is off, and the Jazz win it. Jeff Teague now with the ball, bringing it up the floor. Beats his man, passes it to Lou Williams, who gets it up and in. So this is Gordon Hayward's first game back, and now that DeMar Carroll's out for the season, we're going to have to see him really step up his offensive game. In real life, he has a tendency to sort of fade away in games, and that was a sweet crossover right there, getting Carmelo to lean and then hitting the nice mid-range jumper. But he has a tendency to just disappear from games, and that's something we cannot have now without DeMar Carroll. So this is also, like I was saying earlier, a really good team in the West now, with Trey Burke, who is a pretty good point guard, and then you have Melo, who's a really one of the top probably 10 players in the league, probably top 5, and then you also have two really nice wing players, and that was a sick and one by Jeff Teague right there, putting Carmelo on a poster. But you also have Trey Burke and Alex Burks, two really talented players who could develop into something nice. And down low, when Joel Embiid, one of probably the top prospects in the draft, and then go along with that, Derek Favors, who I'm really high on. I think he's going to be a good player. He just has to develop a little more. And maybe not this year, but at least in a couple years, they could be a team that could compete for the finals. And so back to the gameplay. Dennis Schroeder with the ball now, getting a screen from Kyle Korver, passing it to Shane Battier. Shane Battier for 3, and he gets that to go to give it the Hawks a 3-point lead. And he was a signing, like I said earlier, he's a great shooter, which fits our system. He can play some nice perimeter and post D. I think he's one of the only guys with, like, I forget how many steals, but also a lot of blocks at the same time, which is something that's a really nice stat. Both small forward and power forward. Something that DeMar Carroll, that was sort of his role in this team. He was a great defender who played small forward and power forward, sort of for a stretch 4 feel. And so going at the end of the first quarter, we're down by 1 to the Jazz. And not a great start, but at the same time, we're only down by a point, so it's not a huge deficit, something that we can definitely overcome. And so already being out rebounded by 4 rebounds, that's something that we needed to improve in the offseason, and I didn't really address it that well, getting guys like Gordon Hayward, who's not a great rebounder, and just we didn't really switch up the roster that much. But that was a great fake right there by Gordon Hayward for a score. So, but what I meant to say earlier is this is Gordon Hayward's first game against the Jazz since being traded, and also I think Elton Brand's on this team, and same with CJ Miles. I'm not sure if Elton Brand actually plays in this game, but I know CJ Miles does. Now Korver the ball for 3, and he knocks that down to tie up the game at 31 with 6 minutes left in the second quarter. So now Jeff Teague with the ball, 5 minutes left. Pero Antic going for a pick and pop. He sets the screen, fades away. Teague with the pass to Korver, and he shoots and gets that to go for the lead. Korver on fire, back-to-back threes right there. So you can see we're at the very bottom of the East right now. Not the start to the season that we were looking for. Hopefully we can turn that around, because this is a team that I feel is definitely a playoff team, and they should be playing a lot better than that. Hopefully it's just they've been playing better competition. I don't really remember what schedule we've played so far. So Jeff Teague with the ball once more, kicks to the corner to Shane Battier for 2, and that's good to give his team the 1-point deficit Now Al Horford in the high post, backing down Cantor, gets him in the air and lays it up and in. A great post move right there. Horford, a guy who I really like. He's a guy, and this is sort of being really optimistic about him, but he's sort of a Tim Duncan type player where he can hit that little mid-range jumper. He's not going to hit a three very often, but in this offense, it's sort of modeled after the San Antonio Spurs, who just won the NBA championship, but it features a guy in Jeff Teague who is a sort of Tony Parker-like. He's a great driver, and at the same time, he's very quick and plays nice defense. So going into halftime right now, it's 44-44, tied up. Nice comeback.
Well, Carmelo, some great help off the bench during this first half. What does their contribution mean to this team?
Well, I mean, we always believe that we have one of the better benches in the NBA. When they come to play like we're playing so far, it makes it a tough game. It makes it a tough team to beat. Just hoping we can keep that up.
It certainly takes some pressures off the starters. Melo, thanks for the time. Guys?
Thank you, Doris, and we'll be back for the third quarter of action.
So the third quarter is now underway after that interview from Carmelo Anthony. Jeff Teague has the ball going for a floater and banks it in. A great shot right there to start off the half, give his team a 2-point lead. Now going for the pick and roll with Al Horford. Great pass right there into the paint, and he lays that up and in right past the blocker's arm. So Jeff Teague with the ball now gives it to Paul Millsap, who passes it to Lou Williams, and he knocks down that jumper for a 4-point lead. Great shot right there. And so I wanted to ask, on these commentaries, do you prefer sort of what I was doing at the beginning of the video, sort of a breakdown of the team and the teams that we're playing against and sort of what our future is and what our plan is? Or do you prefer more of a play-by-play type thing where I just really talk about what's happening inside of the game? As Jeff Teague pump fakes and hits a three for a 5-point lead. He's off to a great start, 15 points, only missed 2 shots. He's 2 for 3 from the 3-point line, and he gets a steal right there. Passes it up to Gordon Hayward for the dunk. Great shot right there as he's at 8 points, outperforming Carmelo Anthony in the point category. Something you would not think you would see very often. And right there, that was CJ Miles, our offseason acquisition, dishing it to Enes Kanter, a guy that we traded in the Gordon Hayward trade, if you missed that. So Dennis Schroeder bringing the ball up the floor. A guy I feel like he could be a really nice option for the backup point guard role. He's in this game, he's a much better shooter than I think he probably is in real life. His rating's pretty high, but he didn't have a great rookie year in real life. He really underperformed for what you would expect out of a first-round pick, but at the same time, it was a very weak draft. So getting him when they did, it wasn't a terrible pick. So now Schroeder for 3, and he gets that to go. Gives us the lead once again. But like I was saying, he's a guy who he could be a really nice backup point guard and maybe eventually develop into a starting point guard role later on in his career. But at this point, he's just a really nice, like I've been saying, a really nice backup point guard. So we're up by 3 going into the fourth quarter. Nice start to the second half for us, taking the lead and holding on to it for most of the third quarter. And so another guy I want to talk about in this video is Lou Williams, who's a guy I maybe look to trade later in the year, as he's a 6th man, and that's not a huge deal for us. A trade I was looking at is trading him maybe to the Golden State Warriors, as he's sort of a Jarrett Jack type, and that I feel like that would be a real help for them. That's something they missed last year, and I feel like he sort of fits that 6th man, comes off the bench, and he's sort of a mix of a backup point guard. He's a combo guard is really what he is, and he provides a nice scoring punch off the bench. And there's other teams that I've been looking, sort of just getting feelers out for what his value is. So as you see, he picks the pocket and goes in for the dunk one-handed, as we're at a 9-point lead now. A really great game for this team, bouncing back after a loss to Sacramento in episode 2. So Jeff Teague, like I've been saying, 19 points. However, he does have 3 turnovers. That's something that I feel like he really needs to limit in his game. Also, he needs to work on his consistency, because at times he shows flashes where I feel like he could be an all-NBA point guard, but then at other times it's just really hard to watch. Because I am a Hawks fan in real life, so I pretty much watched all of their games this year, And just when he's on, I feel like it's just incredible. But then he has times where he's off, and it's just hard to watch. So Lou kicking to Gordon Hayward for 3, and he knocks that shot down. As I've built this team so far, I'm pretty sure almost every single person except for Chris Walker on this team has at least a 70. Him and Al Horford aren't quite there, but that's not a big deal, especially Chris Walker because he's not playing this year. But every person on this team can shoot threes, and that is going to be a huge part of this offense because I really want it to be pretty much have our team and then have a bunch of shooters to go along with them. So Paul Millsap gets the steal. Jeff Teague bringing the ball up the floor now on the fast break. Kicks it to Gordon Hayward, and he dunks that home. Gets a 7-point lead now. A great dunk right there. On the fast break once more. Gordon Hayward in the corner. He shoots and scores. That's a 9-point lead once again. He's having a really nice game too, as he's a player, like I've been saying, we need to see a really nice performance the rest of the year, and he's shown that in this game. At 16 points right now, I think he's still outperforming Carmelo. And if you can do that as our probably 4th option, that's something that you can't really not like that. It's just a great thing. And so now the game's pretty much over at this point. We're up by 12 points, and the clock's just going to run out at this point. That's a 12-point lead. And Schroeder shoots at the buzzer for 3, and he will score that. He's just trying to rub it into the Jazz face, really humiliate them. And so I believe we have an interview with Carmelo once again. I'm not really sure who's being interviewed, or maybe there's not. I don't think there's an interview in this episode. So this was a really nice win. Get some nice momentum after starting 6-10. Not a great start to the year, but that's something I feel like we can turn around with this roster. It's a very talented roster, and we may look to make a couple trades later in the year to just solidify it a little more. So now we're looking at our stats. Jeff Teague had 21 points, 11 assists, 5 rebounds, and 3 steals. A really, really great game. Almost had a triple-double. He shoots 8 for 14 from the field. And in this game, we outshot them. We made 8 threes compared to their 2. We shot 21, and they only shot 6. And we had 5 more blocks than them. And blocks, steals, and 3-pointers are a stat that I always want to beat the other team in, as that's something that I really pride myself on. And I hope you enjoyed, because I'm out.